my lovelies, my name is Boomy and you're watching my channel, Boomy Reactions. Now today I would like to share with you another language-based video. I feel like I haven't watched one of these for a while. I find them so interesting. Etymology, the origin, the roots of words and languages. I don't know, I am a little bit of a nerd in that sense, but I love learning, yes. And this I find very interesting. So this video has been requested through Buy Me a Coffee from the lovely Rich. Thank you so much, my friend. Thank you for your support. So Rich, you say, here are a few YouTube videos that you might find enjoyable. We all know that you're always interested in learning new things. I am. And these things highlight languages humorously and their Latin beginnings. Okay, so Rich, you do suggest watching these before doing it as a reaction. You know what though? I love to just watch things as they pop up and I'll react to them. Oh gosh, I hope I don't regret this now. Okay, so 2 will raise the hecklers, I think hecklers of YouTube. Oh gosh, okay, right. They are scholarly, can't pronounce that word very easily, and factual, but YouTube will probably disagree. Guys, let's not get offended by anything here. Let's just see what this video has to say. I'm sure there's things that, you know, recent research has shown us differently, but for the sake of learning, for the sake of just watching along with this video, let's see what it has to say. I don't think I've seen this channel before. So this video is, oh gosh, the battle between British and American English. Oh, this is an age-old thing, isn't it? So I can't for the life of me understand why this inflicts so much argument. So the British language, the English language, I beg your pardon, has undergone so many changes throughout its little lifetime. Each time, in the UK anyway, each time we've had an invasion, it seems to kind of adopt another language and it mutates and it changes. So, you know, we've had German influence from the Germanic invasion, we've had the Norman invasion, and then, you know, there was a lot of French that was introduced into our language and it changed, and we've had the Viking invasion, so all of a sudden we've got Old Norse and Scandinavian, which is thrown into English as well. There's other influences, so it's no surprise to me that once a lot of migrants have gone over the pond into the New World hundreds of years ago, we're now separated by an ocean. And so, I don't know, it doesn't seem that odd to think that the English spoken in the USA has undergone changes and has evolved and, you know, and has had other influences for whatever reason, you know, so it doesn't, this weird kind of battle of the use of the English language always seems so odd to me. Yes, we have differences, okay, but of course we've got differences. We are an ocean apart. Anyway, guys, I've done enough blabbing. You know me. Let's crack on with the video. And as ever, guys, if you're enjoying these reactions, hit the like and subscribe button. Thank you so much, my lovelies. If you're interested, I have a Buy Me a Coffee. The link is over here. And should you wish to support this channel any further, I do have a Patreon account if you fancy checking that out. The link is in the description below. Right. What have I let myself in for here? Let's watch.
Why is British English so much more sophisticated than American English?
What?
Why is American English so much less snobby than British English?
Why would you call it an eggplant when aubergine is so much more elegant?
Why on earth would you call a cookie a biscuit if it's not twice baked?
Let's answer all those questions and more in another transatlantic Words Unravelled.
Straight away, we're getting into it, aren't we? Aubergine. This is an interesting one because for a long time I've heard the eggplant being used, and it never dawned to me for a long time that when you guys say eggplant, it's referring to what I call an aubergine. I just thought they were two completely separate things. It's rather humorous, isn't it, guys? Or oh yes, the biscuits and the cookies. Do you know, there probably is an origin behind the use of the two, but we know what each other means by now. Words Unravelled.
Welcome to another episode of Words Unravelled. I'm Jess Zafaris, author of etymology books, including Words from Hell and Once Upon a Word, and creator of Useless Etymology.
And I'm Rob Watts from the YouTube channel Rob Words. And today we're talking about the differences between British and American English.
Rob Words. This fellow has a bicycle on his wall. The weird things that I'm noticing here. Oh, makes sense actually. It must make storage of that bike a little bit easier.
And you might have already noticed a difference at the start of this video/podcast, and that is in the accents of the hosts. Jess, explain where you are and how that's affected how you speak.
I'm in the US. Specifically, I live in Connecticut, but I've lived in Chicago. I've lived in Colorado. I'm married to someone from LA, and I grew up, spent 18 years in Tennessee. So I have a lot of influence shaping my diction and the words that I use every day.
I can't hear the Tennessee. And is it, I have like an untrained ear because I'm not around accents from the US all the time. But to the untrained ear, to a foreigner, I can't hear any of the Tennessee accent coming through, which is a shame because I love that accent.
But I know that I also can't speak for everyone in the US because the range of dialects, even in specific cities, is vast.
And across what I would say is a smaller area, the variation in dialects in Britain is also very broad. And that's where I'm from. And I've lived in different parts of it. Only in England, I have to say. I've lived in London now, I've lived in Manchester, I've lived in Yorkshire, but I'm from a place called Derby, which is smack bang in the middle.
Oh, well, consider me wrong. No, that's an interesting area for an English accent. It's listening to him talk, I would say it's quite a neutral accent, but it is more of a southern accent, whereas I suppose I've got more of a northern accent. So you see that divide. We're still not really sure where this centerline divide is in the UK.
The furthest bit of Britain from the sea, I believe.
Oh, okay.
And I speak British English. I don't speak received pronunciation. I have a slight northernness in the way I speak. I don't say, please pass the basket. I want to collect some raspberries. I say, please pass the basket.
Oh, yeah, that could have been the giveaway. Pass. I say pass. Please pass the basket. It's all about the not the ah. Please pass the basket. Or the big giveaway for me is bath. Do you say bath or do you say bath? If you say bath, you're a southerner. If you say bath, you're a
want to collect some raspberries. And so we get to the nub of what this episode is all about. And that is not necessarily the differences within our countries, but between them. Two nations separated by a common language is how George Bernard Shaw supposedly described England specifically and the United States. And it's true, isn't it? We do speak different versions of English, but they are different versions. They're not different languages, right?
Yeah.
Indeed, we've got a transatlantic war of words on our hands here. I'm very excited about it.
I think the most obvious way in which the difference between British and American English manifests itself is in, the vocab that we use. Yeah. People will have noticed, for example, that I would call a thing in a block of flats that takes you up to the top floor a lift. You would describe that whole situation very differently.
An apartment, and you use the elevator. Yeah? How is that?
Indeed, that's an elevator. In fact, I would not use the word flat at all. I would use the word apartment, which, do you know why an apartment is called a flat where you are?
No, I have no idea.
Like a flattened house.
It's from Old English. It's flet was the, or at least FLETT was the word for a dwelling, specifically like a ground floor dwelling, but it's meant to imply via its Proto-Indo-European root an area that's spread out that you live in. Personally, I think apartment makes more sense because it literally means a place apart where you can go and live.
But isn't anywhere that you live a place apart that you can go and live? Isn't that just a home, isn't it?
Well, ideally, but you could also have apartments within homes. You could also have segments and rooms within your house. Flat, on the other hand, seems very obscure to me.
It's kind of like flat, really just refers to a ground floor spaced out dwelling, like a bungalow. a bungalow house. So why would we call high rise on top of the other? Why would we call them flats? Oh, well, oh, now she said this, I'm starting to question why we call it. So, apartment does make a little bit more sense. Now, I'm wondering though, if I kind of switched sides and I started referring to flats as apartments over here, people would know what I was talking about. It would just maybe raise an eyebrow like, why are you calling it that though? I know exactly what you mean, but apartment? But now I think like estate agents, I think they would sell them. Do they sell them as apartments? It's interesting. I think maybe we're starting to come around to actually referring to them as apartments. Maybe.
We're going to try and keep this civil, but you're not going to persuade me that apartment is a better way.
Well, I think
however many letters that is. It's so many I can't even count. Flat, neat, 4 letters, beautiful.
That's
Lift
not
as
general
well versus
rule.
elevator. I mean, why would you want to waste your time with what 1, 2, 3, 4 syllables versus a nice swift 1?
You know, I do like lift a little bit better, but I'll stick with elevator for the dialectical purposes.
Now, one thing that I would want to highlight here is that I'm sure when we refer, obviously in the UK, when we say lift, can that refer to a number of different things? Like I'm thinking in construction, like would you have other things referred to as a lift? No, maybe. Now, using elevator, you're not going to get confused with anything because there's only one thing that can be referred to as an elevator. Like a lift, could that be like, I don't know, like, I think I know what I mean in my head, like just devices that are designed to winch and lift things higher up. I don't know. I think I'm making it up now.
Tell us about some more of these terminological differences.
What do you call a potato that has been deep fried and cut into a long shape?
Achoo!
Are you talking about delicious, delicious chips?
I am talking about delicious, delicious French fries. This is a fun one. Apparently, they are from around the same time, like within the same 3 years, which I think is super interesting. What Americans would call French fries, but what you call chips is first found in A Tale of Two Cities, interestingly enough. French fried potatoes is slightly earlier, 1856. And this is because at the time, cooking potatoes by immersing them in fat was considered a peculiarity of French cooking, whereas most English-speaking places would dry fry them in an oven.
I was just thinking this. So when we refer to chips, we're not necessarily just talking about fried chips. You know, it can be oven baked, running out of other methods to cook them, but they don't necessarily have to be fried. The majority of the time they are, but they don't have to be. Now, French fries they are fried fries, aren't they? Maybe that's the difference. Maybe. But yes, they're chips. Although what we call chips are normally chunkier. They're normally like, kind of chunk. Whereas when we refer to fries, we are talking about skinny chips. So we do differentiate between those. When we say chips in pubs, restaurants, even in supermarkets, buying them at home, chips will be at least, I'd say, as a golden rule, I'd say they're at least like 1.5 centimeters in width. Very specific. Whereas a fry will be kind of, I don't know, like under 1 millimeter. So we would differentiate it that way. So we wouldn't call skinny chips. We would call them French fries.
What you've already debunked for me there is that story about how American troops around about sort of the First World War, pick any war, who were actually in Belgium, heard people speaking French and serving these potatoes served in this specific fried and long, and they called them French fries. Just they're French because they assumed they were French, but actually they were dealing with Belgians. By the way, to me, a chip is thicker than a fry. We do differentiate between the two. Like what you get in America, in a McDonald's, we wouldn't call them. Well, maybe actually, I can imagine my dad calling them chips.
What would you call them?
It's a French fry. It's it's distinctly different to what I get from a fish.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
For a thicker piece, I would call that a wedge, a potato wedge.
Oh yeah, but that's got to be, to me, that there's a geometrical
There's
difference.
a difference. We've got like steak fries, waffle fries. We've got tater tots. We've got every shape of fried potato, and they all have, but they usually all come down to like the umbrella term fries.
It's interesting because a wedge to us, potato wedges are something completely different. They're wedge shaped. They're not just thick chips. What do you reckon, guys? Any of our US viewers? What's a potato wedge to you? Is it the same thing as what I call a potato wedge? Like they're seasoned, literally just, I can't describe them any better than just like cut into a wedge of potato. They are thicker. They're a different shape to chips. Or, what would you call those thick, chunky chips that you would have with steak? What would you call them? Are they still fries?
I did notice since 1769, thin slices of food, specifically vegetables, but any vegetable and not specifically fried, were also called chips. So that one is a little bit older if you consider it on that front. But if you're just talking about fried potatoes, that's the 1800s.
So people watching this might be thinking, well, what does any of this matter? This difference between the words for chips and fries and
matters so
crisps,
much.
which is what British people call potato chips. But I have a real world situation in which, to me, it did matter. To a 10-year-old me, it really mattered, because I was sitting around a pool in Orlando, Florida, hungry, so very hungry. And what I wanted was just a small plate of chips, please. I'd love a plate of chips, some nicely fried potatoes, hot with ketchup. So I went up to the booth, to the man, and I said, can I have some chips, please? And then he went over to the back of his little booth where he'd got I think he got them on the wall or in a basket or something to grab some potato chips.
Crisps.
Right? Some crisps, indeed. And so I thought, oh no, I'm going to get the wrong thing here. So I said, and I thought, oh, okay, I know it's something else. It's not actually called that in America, is it? What is it? Potato, please. And so what he then got me was potato chips. So I still ended up with a bag of cold crisps.
It's such a, oh God, I can even imagine this happening. Such a British awkwardness, that panic. Oh, no. It's not going to understand. I'm going to be given something I don't want. Panic. That's such a British scenario. Awkward. Oh my gosh.
Oh, that's unfortunate. One of my least favorite features of American English is periodically nationalism will get in the way of the word or the term French fries. So like in the near the outset of the Iraq War, when France disagreed with the U.S. approach to that situation, we tried freedom fries for a little while. And it seems to come in waves. Like in the 1950s, there was also a wave of American fries, and those were more of the like McDonald's styled ones for a little while. But French fries always comes back.
We'll definitely get into the impact of nationalism on American English in particular a little bit later in this podcast.
Oh, yes. The whole war on language has impacted food terms from a variety of countries.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, but also just the very existence of American English in its current form and its current written form has a lot to do with politics. Like I say, we'll get there later. Let's talk about a few more of the differences. And actually, I talked about my chips and crisps trauma. There are a few other differences that can provide an awkward situation, let's say.
Such as?
Yes. Do you know why I didn't rush in with my own examples there? Because I know it's going to make me blush, and people have been leaving comments about the fact that I blush every time we mention anything rude.
That's my favorite part, though.
No, I'm doing it now. I'm actually doing it. Everyone watches going to see I'm blushing because I know we're about to start talking about fannies. And that's another.
I think we've mentioned this before. This is a funny one. So that word, the word fanny, means something totally different in the UK than it does in the US. Just be aware of it, you know, if you come and visit. A fanny bag. I think we know what a fanny pack or a fanny bag is, but it is always rather humorous to us that, you know, you guys call a bottom a bum, a fanny. It is a lady's genitals over here. Yes, a nunu. Yes. Whatever you
that would
prefer
have
to
made
call it.
my grandma fall off her chair if she heard me saying it. But the word fanny is not as funny to you as it is to me.
Just a quick one as well, guys. It is also a name. It's a pet name over here, which is short for, it's generally short for Myfanwy, Welsh name Myfanwy, or, you know, Fanny for short. I think it's short for another name as well. I can't remember what the name is, but I'm sure it's Myfanwy. Yes, so, you know, still rather comical over here.
It's a different part for me as it is for you. For me, it's a word for your backside, where for you, it's specifically my front side, so to speak.
Yeah, it's not mine. It's not every time I use the word. I'm not referring specifically to Jess. I should point this out. It can be anyone's. And again, I'm blushing even more than I normally am at this point. Moving on, we also have a problem with pants. Don't we?
Wait. No, hang on. My favorite part of the word fanny is where it comes from, though. Do you know where it comes from?
Etymology podcast. Go on.
I don't actually.
I'm gonna make you sit through this one. It's from the book Fanny Hill, or it's most likely. It may have come from a different source before that. That may have been the more salacious, like double entendre term. But the novel Fanny Hill, or Memoirs of a Woman of Pleasure, was a 1748 novel that touched off some landmark debates that resulted in legislation about obscenity and indecency in fiction. It was considered one of the first works of like literary pornography in English, and its author John Cleland was arrested in 1749 along with his publishers and printer for corrupting the king's subjects. And I highly recommend that our listeners and viewers go and look up this novel because it's in the public domain. You can find it on Gutenberg.org or archive.org. It is hilariously raunchy. I highly recommend it. It's very funny and raunchy. Involves lots of like heaving bosoms and twining loins, and it's delightful.
These days we have 50 Shades of Grey, so none of us really blush so much anymore when it comes to books anyway.
Fanny Hill is a person's name or a place.
It is a person's name.
Good to know. And lucky Fanny Hill for getting 2 parts of the body named after her.
Now let's talk about the clothing, the other awkward thing that we that covers that part in question.
Both of them.
Generally speaking, when I say the word pants, I'm not talking about underwear. I'm talking about trousers. Right.
We are referring
you are
to
correct.
underpants.
You're correct to say trousers. But if I were to be referring to pants, I'd be referring to what I've got underneath my trousers.
You could really put your foot in your mouth, so to speak, with this one. For me, trousers is more specific. Like we do use that word. It's more of like it's a designation that we use for like business wear. When I think of trousers, a trouser is a nice pair of business pants for any gender. But if I'm talking about underwear, it's underwear, it's panties, it's thongs. It's more specific. It's very exciting.
Or knickers.
Yeah, we prefer not to talk about the unmentionables.
Do you know the origin of the word pants, by the way?
He's just mentioned something there. I don't think an awful lot of British people would shy away from talking about pants. I'm thinking maybe the older generations, the younger ones. I don't want to speak for everybody, but I don't really think we'd be that embarrassed talking about panties or knickers, whatever you want to call them.
No, it must be from French pantalon somehow.
But pantaloons, pantalone are from the name of a character from Italian Commedia dell'arte. Pantalone was a character who typically wore red hose or leggings, and all pants and panties and such are named after him. He was a silly, avaricious old man who tended to get in humorous entanglements with women and servants who openly mocked him. So I don't know that his pants are that critical to his character development, but they were a feature of this character trope anytime he would appear on stage.
That's
There you
pretty
go.
funny.
Another thing related to pants.
Another name after
Suspenders.
somebody.
You know that there's a difference in what that means between British and American English?
What does suspenders mean in British English?
The saucy garment that holds up your stockings. Not the here.
Suspenders are what hold up your socks.
Socks?
Okay, yes. So a garter is
Stockings,
what holds up your
really.
socks for me, and suspenders are what holds up your pants. But you also have another word for the one that holds up your pants,
Braces.
correct?
We call them braces.
Yes.
That's right. Which sounds like something to help you with an injury to me.
Oh, yes.
Well, yeah, it could do. But it comes in handy. We sometimes refer to, if something's come in a pair, we might refer to it as a brace, as in two things.
Like a brace of hairs, too. Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've ever used that word in that context anyway.
Okay, I've got one. If you're in.
Go on. Of course I'm in.
Okay. You probably have, my understanding is you have two different words for this, and I want to note the distinction here. What do you call like a baked, sweet, disc-shaped treat?
Ah,
Are you talking about a
a
biscuit?
biscuit.
I am perhaps talking about a biscuit, but nothing that I would call a biscuit.
A cookie.
Right. Yeah, because is a biscuit stateside, is that a savory thing?
It
They
is.
are
It depends on where you
delicious.
live, but in all of the places that I lived, or most of them, a biscuit is closer to what you would call a scone or a scone. I don't
Yeah.
recall which version of that pronunciation
Scone.
it is,
That's another podcast in its own right. Let's not get into it.
but it's a
Scone up north, scone down south.
little butterier and a little fluffier.
Yeah,
The
fluffier,
ones
definitely.
that I make, the Southern style biscuits and gravy dish, is like a big buttery fluffy piece of bread that kind of
So
crumbles, and it
tasty.
doesn't require yeast or rising.
Yes.
Right, but a biscuit in gravy in Britain would be an abomination.
You definitely don't want to ever order a biscuit with gravy in Britain. What you would get would you would not enjoy.
They should only go in tea. But the American word for what I would call a biscuit in most circumstances is a cookie, right?
That's right. And I've heard some British people tell me that a softer biscuit may be called a cookie, even where you are. Is that correct?
Yes.
So we do distinguish between biscuits and cookies. So for us, a cookie is a type of biscuit, but when we think of a cookie, I think this may be more down to the brand Millie's cookies. I think it's an American brand. They're softer, always containing chocolate, big chocolate chunks or chocolate chips, or even actually the store-bought ones that aren't so soft. We would call them cookies, chocolate chip cookies specifically. Yeah.
Those soft biscuits, yes, very much. They do get called cookies. And if it's got chocolate chips in it, it usually qualifies as a cookie.
Our
Can I use
distinctions
this
are
as a
weird.
jumping off point to talk about why there are different terms either side of the Atlantic for so many things? Because cookie's a good example. Cookie comes from Dutch, right? But it doesn't enter English in Britain, not from the Dutch just across the channel. It enters it in America from the Dutch, who are also with the English and the Scots-Irish and the Welsh, etc.,
Yeah.
who have settled over in America. And there are a load of Dutch terms that we've got that entered English in the United States. For example, cruller and coleslaw.
cruller.
I
think
have no
yacht is one
idea
as
what a
well.
cruller is. Absolutely
Oh.
none.
It's a
delicious
variety of
donut.
like baked donut
So
good.
Yeah, and it's similar, the word pretzel, right, which we get from German, but comes from German into English in the United States. And it's because of the cultural exchanges that are happening, all these people sort of living together. And one of the big reasons why American English is different to British English in terms of vocabulary is this mixing of immigrants, or with this shared story of either trying to escape Europe for whatever reason, or just to start anew. And so you also have Italian words that get used more in America, or that enter English in America, like zucchini. A difference. We don't call it a zucchini in England. What's a zucchini?
A zucchini is a long green squash. They also come in yellow, but you don't call them zucchinis if they're yellow.
Okay, we're talking about courgettes here, aren't we?
Yes, that is correct.
Took me a while to get there with that one.
But there's another one in the same family of foods, right? Again, I'm gonna embarrass myself if I try to get too far into the plant world, but what I call an eggplant is not what you call an eggplant.
No, I call it an aubergine, which is actually neatly takes me onto one of the other reasons why there are differences between British English and American English, because America is built on enterprise, right? This is people who've taken the initiative to travel, and they're having to spread out, whereas the Brits kind of sort of just resting on their laurels and doing their usual thing. But also, the people who are in America, they're encountering different things as well, and they're having to come up with names for things, and they're doing generally one of three things. They're taking a Native American name for a thing. They see a skunk and they end up calling it a skunk. They see a raccoon and end up calling it a raccoon. Native American derived words. They take a word that some other Europeans are already using for a thing, like a prairie or a bayou or a levee. We don't have those in Britain, so we don't have native words for them. Or they are inventing new words but using English, and eggplant is one of those.
And eggplants are inspired by the small white eggplants that actually look like eggs, but the large purple ones are in the same family and flavor and everything as well.
Yeah, if you've never seen an eggplant where the actual plant looks like an egg,
they do look like
Google
eggs.
it immediately. It's going to really blow your mind.
Oh, I've got to highlight this because they've just breezed over it. So zucchini and courgette. Okay, we can establish they're the same thing. It's hilarious to me that within our British English, we have adopted what I think might be the French name of this vegetable, but the zucchini, presumably the Italian name for it. So maybe it's that at certain points in time, Britain, we're next neighbours with France. Maybe we adopt a few more French terms, but because of the migration, maybe you guys ended up more influenced with Italian. I'm grasping now. That does tickle me, that one.
Did me. I only realized it very recently. But bullfrog's another good example of that, of taking some existing English words and putting them together to name something, in this sort of spirit of ingenuity.
By the way, you mentioned raccoon. I love the etymology of that one. The Native American word it comes from literally means he scratches with the hands, which is a nice bit of serendipity with other words for raccoons around the world. In most languages, it means something like wash bear, which also references the fact that they use their hands to wash their food in water.
Yeah, I'm here in Germany and it is Waschbär.
I've never seen a raccoon.
Waschbär. And by the way, it might surprise you to know we do have them in Berlin. I was out running the other day and a raccoon crossed my path.
Are they the same color as they're like gray with the ringtail?
Yeah, they're an invasive species. They're the same guys.
Little jerks. I love them. Dear trash pandas. And
trash pandas. I love pandas. I've never seen a raccoon. I would very, very much like to see one, but yeah, I didn't even think that they existed anywhere outside of the Americas. I thought, did we have them in Europe? I did not know that.
Speaking of trash, we should talk about this. I polled my my Twitter followers about this too, because I wanted to make sure there weren't too many regional differences, because it does vary a little bit. Garbage and trash are the words that I use, and they have specific instances, but you use two other words for waste materials.
Yeah, so we talk about rubbish. That's the stuff that you put in your bin and that the bin man comes to take away. And we have litter as well, which we use. I think that you do have that in American English, but we use it a lot more. Litter is generally stuff that, is littering the street. But you can also have a litter bin, stuff you put stuff in. You wouldn't talk about a litter bin, right? You'd talk about a garbage can.
No, litter is only when it's on the ground and had been discarded improperly. Garbage or trash is when it's, well, it can be anywhere, but the trash bag, the garbage truck tends to be what I use. One distinction that I was talking with one of my followers about is you would use a garbage person as the municipal worker who comes and gets your garbage, but you would not call them a trash person because a trash person means something else.
Yeah,
It's not terribly nice, is it? Oh, while we're talking about sort of
So is it bin
municipal
then?
services, here's an interesting one.
People, rather.
So what you call the mail, I call
Post.
the post.
Post.
Right.
Mhm.
But my post is delivered by the Royal Mail and yours
And
is
the
delivered by
mailman.
the US Postal Service.
Mhm. And we drop it off at the post office.
Oh, you do? You call it a post office as well. There you go.
Mhm.
But you put it in a mailbox, whereas we put it in a post box.
That's right. Mhm.
And we have phone
Oh, and-
boxes and you have phone booths, right?
These days,
I was just going to say, so yeah, we have the mailman or mail people, I suppose, these days. Or, you know, they would have been called postman. Yeah, postman or mailman, I suppose. I think the two are more interchangeable these days, but I suppose traditionally we would have said the postman or the post lady, postwoman, post people. I don't know what the correct term is anymore.
not many, but yes, we do have phone booths. Sometimes we have the same pronunciation of a word, but we spell it differently. So let's talk about that a little bit. One of the most iconic or obvious differences that comes up the most, I think, is the fact that you spell words like color, armor, humor, honor, and flavor
With a
with
U.
a U, and there is no U in the ending of those words for me.
Yeah, that's right. And that is almost solely down to one man, isn't it? This is Noah Webster in his American dictionary, where he very deliberately tried to, by the way, with consultation of other linguists. He wouldn't do it on his own, including Thomas Jefferson. He was a great believer in a new America establishing its own version of the English language.
Okay.
And he changed all kinds of spellings. Yeah, and color was one of them. But to say that it's wrong would obviously be nonsense, because
It just looks very French to me. It seems like vestigial ers on French words
Yeah.
like couleur and other words like that.
But weirdly, by taking away the U, American English has inadvertently come closer to the Latin origin of the word.
Absolutely. And that also happens with endings like eyes, I-Z-E, and Y-Z-E versus Y-S-E or Y-Z-E, like analyze versus analyze and paralyze versus paralyze, or apologize. We spell those differently.
Yeah, I've got a list here of differences, and I'm just having a read through them here. And yeah, obviously the eyes ones are a big one in there. I've also got a lot of double letters that in American English you don't bother with. For example, if I were to write down traveler, I would put 2 L's in there. I would put 2 G's in wagon.
You put 2 G's in wagon?
I've not heard that one before, but I can kind of see why that would follow our bizarre rules of the English language. Yeah, so the only thing I will say, my generation and probably a few generations that have come after me, with spell check on our computers doing our homework, the spell check, I think the default is set to American English. And the American English that we're so used to seeing, you know, on TV and such, we think that's the normal way to spell things. And of course, our homework gets sent in to the teachers. Obviously, this has been a long time ago for me. And the teachers tell you that you're spelling it incorrectly, which is news to an awful lot of children. So it can be very confusing. That is the point of what I'm trying to say. For youngsters, it's the idea of having 2 versions of the same language is very confusing. I understand why there's 2, but yeah, it does cause an element of confusion. But I think with the spelling of words, dropping the U, and actually making that closer to the original Latin origin of the word is absolutely hilarious. So why is the U put in there in the first place? But it does make these words significantly easier to spell for young children as well, because they spell more as they sound. You know, there's maybe 1 or 2 less overly complicated rules to follow when learning the English language, maybe.
2 G's in wagon. I used to
I've
drink in
never
a pub
put
in
2
York
G's
called
in
the
wagon.
Wagon and Horses, and it got 2 G's on it.
Oh.
No kidding. But also, like, in the name of this podcast, which we determined should have 2 L's in
Okay.
Unraveled, because I actually prefer the double L on traveled and traveler and unraveled and raveled, because to me it would look like it should take a long E if it's a single L.
Yeah, you don't want to be talking about
Yes, yeah.
Travelas and Wagons.
Right.
Wagon.
Gets
That's
a little
what I was
mucked up.
thinking.
But the U, can I get back to that for one thing? Because it seems like it's a little arbitrary. Like, terror is from the French terreur, which has the U,
Yeah.
and British English used to have the U, but it doesn't anymore.
Yeah.
And I wonder if maybe like the reign of terror maybe put English speakers off from the Frenchified version.
No one's pretending that English spelling is consistent.
It's
We know
not,
the
is
problems with English spelling, particularly when it
It's
comes to vowels.
difficult.
I'm sure we'll talk much more about the Great Vowel Shift and the fact that the spellings of certain vowel sounds got fixed at different points during the vowel shift, meaning that they reflected pronunciations that didn't match. But also there were loads of different spellings for these French words. You know, you could spell colour C-O-O-L-O-R
Cooler.
at one point.
Of course.
You could spell it C-O-L-U-R.
Colour.
You could spell it with just about any constellation of vowels you liked. And eventually we ended up settling on one. And we've gone for one rule with the word colour, but a different one for the word terror.
The US has the ORU ending on at least one word, and that's glamour.
Glamour.
And my guess is due to the association with like
French
French fashion. But in the 1700s, it was spelled Glamer. So that has also been through a change.
Glamour.
There are quite a lot of examples where there are differences between how British English and American English approaches French words. There's a lot of that. For example, and there's no consistency, by the way, in who tries to stay closer to the Frenchiness, the French pronunciation.
Frenchiness.
To me, it seems like in America, people are more likely to pronounce what I would say as niche and clique as niche and click.
Really?
This is interesting
Niche.
because I ran into this on TikTok a little bit. These days, I have found more American English speakers using niche instead of niche. When I was growing up, I heard niche more often,
I've never
but
heard
apparently
niche.
it's gone through a bit of a wave. Whereas click has
Ah.
always been click as
Click,
far as
yeah.
I've seen it.
You know, I can just about put up with click. You know, I think of plaque and other words like that that end
Yeah.
with the Q-U-E, and you don't. Yeah, fine. I mean, it kind of fits in with those. I don't know why, but it just does. But niche is to completely ignore the existence of that E at the end seems, yeah, that does seem like an abomination.
No,
to
I
me.
always
It does. I'm not huge on that one. I myself have mostly started saying niche because
Yeah.
I found that you get corrected more often if you try to say niche. So we're coming around on that one.
And you
Oh, I tell you what might be. I've never heard people discuss this before. So what I always found very enchanting, very different, is the way that I don't think it's just an accent thing. It's the majority of the way that you guys from the US, you say mirror. So we've never pronounced that differently. As far as I'm aware, in the UK anyway, everyone pronounces this mirror. But I've heard this said an awful lot by a variety of Americans from different states, and you guys pronounce it Mia. I've always wondered why. I always thought that was quite a bizarre word. But then again, as Brits, we love adding R's, and we overpronounce that R in an awful lot of words. And the word that comes to mind is Nevada. And I look at that word and I would instinctively pronounce that Nevada. I don't know. I couldn't tell you why. And I don't know what it is. I'm hoping they touch on it in a minute. But yes, the difference in our pronunciation of words. Well, I suppose there's no R in Nevada. We just throw it in. Why? But there's a handful of words that follow that kind of pattern. And we seem to, I don't know whether it's an accent or something, we throw in an R when there isn't one. But then when there are R's, in like the instance of mirror, you guys, it almost sounds like you don't pronounce the R. It's like it's a very soft R. Mia. I always found the way that was pronounced very, very unusual, very different.
think, oh, well, maybe there's something in like British, sort of the class system, and us occasionally trying to sound a little fancier by applying French pronunciations. But here's an interesting one. Valet versus valet.
Yeah, that is interesting. I
Valet.
say valet.
I say valet.
Yeah, and in Britain and in British high society, you would say valet. And
Oh, well, I'm a
and
commoner.
one more thing. We've talked about pants, but should we talk about lingerie?
Lingerie.
Which is not pronounced like that in England.
How is it pronounced?
I had to look this one up,
I
right?
just say
Because I thought it
lingerie.
seemed weird. And I actually watched a video of a British woman saying, and this is how we pronounce this. Lingerie, which is way, way closer to the French pronunciation. I mean, lingerie
I've never heard it pronounced like
is
that.
way off.
It has an IE on the end, so you would think that E would make more sense. So that makes sense, but I don't know that I'm ever going to shake that
Lingerie.
out of my vocabulary.
Okay. Oh, it's funny.
One of my favorite examples of British American pettiness is the spelling of the word jail, which your spelling is nonsense. It is nonsense. I declare it
Jail?
nonsense.
We don't really use GAOL anymore. And
No,
I've definitely
never
never
heard-
written
I've
it
never even seen that.
GAOL in my line of work as a journalist.
That's good to know. But neither of them have much of a claim to like spelling superiority here, because it's originally from the late Latin caviola, which means little cage, and it's just all kinds of nonsense all over the place. The OED says that the legal style guides basically justify GAOL due to like official tradition.
Oh.
Oh, okay. So they're basically officially just sticking by their guns.
Right.
You know what? There is a pervading idea, I think, in Britain that a lot of Americanisms are sort of modern innovations that have been made up to deliberately depart from the British way of speaking, and such are a diversion from the great tradition of the English language. And so we shouldn't be using words like oftentimes when we have the word often, and we also have the word sometimes. But oftentimes is a good example of the point I'm trying to make here. A lot of the time, or indeed oftentimes, you'll find that these newfangled, and I'm doing quote marks with my fingers here, these newfangled Americanisms are actually as old, or if not older, than the term that's being used in Britain. Oftentimes, by the way, yeah, perfectly legit. Unfortunately, I was one of those who thought it was one of these accidental portmanteau, but it turns out it's not. Oftentimes has been said many a time. Oftentimes has been used, but also things like diaper, which is a much older usage for what we in England would call a nappy. You know, what you clad your baby's arse with.
Arse. See what I mean with the R actually not being there. It says ass, but we say arse. Yeah, this isn't the first time I've heard of a number of instances where the American pronunciation of a handful of words, or the spelling as well, is actually closer to the Old English version than the British. We've got a leg to stand on.
What did I say? It's the coarse way.
Please keep it.
Yeah,
perfect.
well, diaper's an older word. Also, there's also a myth about the American preference for tidbit over titbit, that it's somehow a sign of American.
Titbit.
Tidbit, yeah.
We say titbit in England.
That's
right?
hilarious. I guess it's like a titmouse is also a very small bird. Same idea.
Yeah, for sure.
Or a blue tit.
Look how red I am. Anyway. But the myth in Britain is that Americans don't like to say titbit because of the sort of Puritanism over there, which makes sense when you think about the origins of why people went over there. It's because they felt that, England was, well, Europe indeed was religiously going to pot, and so they needed to get over there and not use such horrible terms as titbit. But anyway, no, tidbit's been around for exactly as long as titbit. And to say that it's newfangled and an abomination against the English language is nonsense.
No.
Ditto gotten. Both of these things that British English speakers will avoid using because they write them off as Americanisms. They're really not. They've been around for a very, very long time.
There are also Americanisms that are kind of like intentionally swaggery, and I think a reactive way to like what is perceived as kind of a hoity-toity or snobby take on English that you see in like British English. And one of my favorite examples of this is, and this was invented sort of cross-pollinated by both British and American writers, but it was meant to sort of poke fun at the way Americans speak, or maybe to swaggeringly boast about the way Americans speak. And that's the words that belong in the category as the word discombobulate, which this category of verbs that were coined in the late 18th and early 19th centuries by playwrights, often who were making a game out of compiling word elements like Latin sounding words and then nonsense elements like the bobule in the middle of discombobulate, to make these sort of funny, entertaining words that were often put in the mouths of American characters, like all American Davy Crockett types. There are different variations, like absquatulate means to leave abruptly or run away, and it adds like the ab prefix meaning off or away from, to squat meaning like sit or stay. So you're literally running away. Another one is bloviate, which combines blow and orate. Another one is obfusticate, which is an intentional overcomplication of obfuscate. So we're doing a little swaggery American word play. Flustrate is a combination of fluster and frustrate.
I like
and
that.
Scrumplicate means to eat and is similarly a play on scrumptious.
But it is fair to say that there is a very deliberate attempt in a nascent United States of America to create a different language and to use different words to are being used in Britain. Here I want to bring in a quote from Noah Webster, right, the writer of the first American English dictionary, because this is a heck of a burn from Noah Webster. He says, "As an independent nation, our honor requires us to have a system of our own in language as well as government. Great Britain, whose children we are, should no longer be our standard, for the taste of her writers is already corrupted and her language on the decline." Ow!
Oh boy, that's goodness gracious. There were phrases along those lines from like Teddy Roosevelt back in the day too, though he was a little inconsistent with some of that attitude, because there's one quote from him during the period when there was sort of a backlash to using foreign languages, especially like German, during the early 1900s. Yeah. Teddy said, "America is a nation, not a polyglot boarding house. There can be but one loyalty to the Stars and Stripes and one nationality, the American, and therefore only one language." Here's the irony: the English language.
But the Brits did kind of give as good as they got in terms of slighting this new sort of American approach to life, not just the language, but Samuel Johnson, who obviously wrote the most influential early English dictionary of the English language. He said, he's quoted as saying, of Americans, "Sir, they are a race of convicts and ought to be thankful for anything we allow them short of hanging."
Ouch.
Yeah,
vicious.
That is vicious.
It's harsh. He's not talking specifically about the language, but it does show the enmity that did exist and did drive American English away from British English to at least some extent.
Mm-hmm. I mean, American English has also provided plenty of words that both of us use these days too, as well, because it's, we've been around for a few hundred years, but like, the word billionaire, things like that. Gubernatorial comes up a lot. Oddball, dugout, hideout. A lot of American English words tend to seem like they came from the movies, like crime films, or they're just related to sugar. So to hustle or be a hustler, to have like classified documents is an American take on that word. Swindling, gouging someone in terms of like taking in terms of swindling them. Then words like cruller, like you mentioned, and cupcake, and diner as a word for a restaurant rather than a person who dines.
Yeah, and also the turning of nouns into verbs. For example, we can thank American English for to interview someone, to divorce someone, or to vacation somewhere. We sometimes say to holiday somewhere in British English, but it sounds we don't like it. Anyway, hey, here's a surprising Americanism that we take completely for granted in British English now. Teenager was seen as a horrible American import. I was looking at a style guide for the Guardian newspaper, the Manchester Guardian, as it was known back in 1950. And it lists Americanisms to be avoided. One of them is teenager. Another one is to pinpoint. Another is the word balding.
Balding.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What's the alternative on that one?
They would want you to say going bald, right?
I mean, that is a noble Shakespearean tradition to verb nouns, so I take issue with that.
Yeah, well,
It sounds
exactly.
nicer,
But
I think.
resistance to this sort of thing is always holding back an inevitable tide, right? It's
Yeah.
always trying to prevent the kind of change that up until now no one has ever managed to prevent with the English language. There's not just the words, but there's also the constructions as well that this style guide and that we've kind of resisted, but eventually have taken on board. For example, one of the ones listed here is saying aim to do something is out. You should have the aim of doing something. And it says you shouldn't help someone finish the job. Instead, you should help them to finish the job.
We need the extra words, apparently.
I
don't
you need
think
the
you do.
infinitive form. You're using the wrong tenses here. Other ones that it rules out as well are to date instead of so far. That's seen as an Americanism. It does sound kind of corporate. It does sound a little bit weird even to me today. But anyway, all of these, right, are in this style guide from 1950. And I think you could probably find British people using every single one of these ways of speaking now.
Every one.
We have so much more material to cover here between the two of us. I hope next time or in a future episode, we can dig into some of the phrases and terms that are more local to where we've lived, because I think that could be a lot of fun too.
Yeah, we have been so general so far, but really we should get into the dialects within Britain and within the United States. I want to tell you all about the myriad different ways you can refer to just a small amount of bread. I'll leave that one with you. I'm going to see how many I can come up with in the meantime. Thank you very much for watching or listening to another episode of Words Unravelled. It's been lovely to have you. Do leave your comments, leave your observations below the YouTube video, or you can email us on wordsunravelledpod@gmail.com.
We'll see you next time.
Bye. I think that they really, really work well together, don't they, that pair? Oh, they are funny. I don't know why there would be any kind of animosity between the differences of language. I understand, I understand the need to want a variation on the English language as Americans. I understand that. I don't know why we would take issue with it. I don't know. Help me understand, guys. Right. Okay. It makes sense, doesn't it? Like I say, we're an ocean apart, and that ocean hundreds of years ago has seemed like a vast distance, but the world is much smaller these days, so we're better connected. And then all of a sudden, the world is smaller and we're aware of these differences, but I just think they're quite comical, to be honest. And we've adopted an awful lot of them. So I live and let live. Live and let be. I don't understand the problem with it, to be honest. Guys, I hope you enjoyed watching that along with me. Very, very interesting. I don't know why etymology is as interesting as it is. Like the origin of words, I find it so interesting. I don't know, I think once you know the origin or, like a root word, you can often decipher the meaning of other words in different languages. Does that make any sense? I know where I'm going with this. Well, Rich, thank you very, very much for requesting this video. I hope this hasn't initiated or flared up any wounds or any anger in anybody. But yes, I don't see the need for it. Oh my gosh, yes, we've got 2 variations on one language. It's not the end of the world. Guys, take care of yourselves for now. Much love. I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.